with 1,000 students, it can end up through quarantine without the students wearing masks. It can end up shutting down that school because over 50% of students won't be able to attend because they will be quarantining just because of contacts between classrooms. So that's just a surprising fact, and it really speaks to the importance. And then if the students have to be quarantined, it also extends to high school sports. So your football games, your Friday night football games, varsity, you won't be able to go to those. You won't be able to watch your children play at those sport games, soccer games, volleyball games, because they will be quarantining. You won't have that, and any semblance can get back to a normal life pre-COVID is something that we look forward to, and even if that comes at a cost, the simple, tiny mask, like not even a variable cost of wearing a mask, I'll gladly take that, and it's important for the state board to issue its authority to compel these local school systems so that we can preserve education in Maryland, and then to preserve the strength and quality of education in Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other board members here in the boardroom with comments or questions? Mr. DeShiel?
Thank you, President Crawford. My view is if we're going to require students to be back in school for in-person instruction, then we need to require masks for the protection they provide. I support the proposed emergency regulation. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to come back to you, Senator Bates, we'll make sure we get everyone else, but I will definitely come back to you. Ms. McCusker?
As a teacher who has taught with students masking, they do very well. And we had very, very few students leaving sick in the spring when we had all of our students practically. I had a good 90% of our student population in with me in the spring, and all students were masked. They did very, very well. And we had very few get sick. We have very few go into quarantine. It's my goal, and I think the goal of this board, to have as many students as possible in classrooms receiving live instruction so that we can catch them up on their skills and we can help them to move forward so that they can be with their friends and have the social and emotional contact that they have been missing at home. So I am in full support of today's resolution.
I'll come back here. I just wanted to see if there are any other board members. Ms. Shire.
Thank you, President Crawford. Yeah, after listening to so many comments with different reasons from the boards and from the public, from all the emails and phone calls we received, it's very amazing that this issue becomes so big and blow up. Being a healthcare worker myself, and also have a couple of doctors, medical doctors in my house, we are all struggling with resources. And what we faced in bedside clinical settings, we really need to look beyond what is just right for my kids. And I know, I respect parents, I'm a parent myself. We want to make decisions or help or guide our students, to a better tomorrow. But we need to look globally. We need to sit back and look outside of the box and see what's the best for the entire community. And being a member of Board of Education, and I do believe our goal, I think everybody's sitting here with parents and our guests here, we want to make sure our students grow and excel themselves in a healthy, safe, and nurturing environment. We are not here to jeopardize the next generation or jeopardize certain things that it might matter to some individual while ignore or not to care for the bigger population. I think that's what we are here for. And under so many microscope, I'm listening to teachers, administrators, legislature, even our student commission, our board member. We all be on the same boat, and we should be doing something together and not to divide, say, you do it this way, you do it a different way. As the experience we learned since March of 2020, last year, we all know if we won't implement the same rules or regulation, something is going to break. And once it breaks, it falls down so quickly. And by looking globally, not just Maryland state itself or United States itself as a nation, look at outside of our country, there are many cases that we need to learn, and we don't want to learn it that hard way. To go through the life that we know our student lost 1 year or more than 1 year of good time learning in person. And I think that's the mission of this board, and that's why we, myself, I fully support follow the CDC guideline and implemented the mandate and go for the emergency regulation route, and to make sure next week our students come back to school with a happy face. They can wear a happy face mask, so we know they're smiling underneath it, okay? And the teacher will be very happy, and our new superintendent already put out so many initiatives. And with the state support, the school is going to have brand new HVAC. That's what we're asking for, and that's what their prevention comes in. So not just one tiny thing. We are looking at many, many factors together. So with due to respect of so many factors, we look at it, and with so many voices being heard, not necessarily that the final decision will be kind of oppose certain group or certain individual, yet they are all for the good and for all students. Thank you, I fully support it.
Thank you. Senator Bates?
I agree with everybody. I really truly want our students back in school, because I think that's where I think when they miss school, they learn a lot from each other as well as from the teachers, and I think it's incredibly critical. That is not my concern with this particular resolution. The concern I have is right now the local jurisdictions already have the ability to do this. If the numbers in a given jurisdiction are such that it would be better for the students to be there with masks on, the locals can do that without this. This is a one-size-fits-all, and when I look at the numbers, they seem to vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and I just would prefer to keep the flexibility within the jurisdiction to do what's best for their students, and I think that they would do that. So I personally have a problem with the one-size-fits-all, and I will be voting against it, but I want the kids back at school. I really do. I'm a former teacher. I know how valuable that time is, the face-to-face and all of that. So please don't hear me say that I don't want the kids back at school. I absolutely do. They can do this if they want right now without us, and that's where I am. Thank you.
Are there, what I would like to do, I would like to make a couple of comments as well. I don't come to this decision lightly. My preference would be to defer to local authorities, but with that deference, I'm a strong believer in accountability. So you don't just make decisions and there's no accountability. We made a commitment as a board, and I want to compliment Dr. Salmon, the support from the governor. When it was necessary, we had to close schools. We did that. In the spring, I guess it was maybe early spring, we applaud the governor and the superintendent in terms of arguing and asking schools to return, bring children back, set a time frame. Why? Because everything we had seen has indicated that while virtual may work for a segment of our school population, it seemed to not be particularly effective for the vast majority. And then, as you remember, as a board, we took up the resolution that said that comes new school year, we wanted to have all of the children back in place, in person. And even before Dr. Salmon left, she contacted the school systems and confirmed that everyone was working in that direction. So again, I'm hesitant to step into that space, and I agree with Senator Bates that the local jurisdictions have the authority, but some have chosen not to. We have as a central responsibility, the responsibility of educating and caring for all of the students in the state of Maryland. And we have a commitment, if you think about what my colleagues have said, was to return children and the staff to a safe environment where they could learn, and to do everything that we could possibly do to minimize the disruptions of in-class, out-of-class, virtual, hybrid, and do that in a way that our children would have an opportunity to learn and try to recover from this terrible experience of this pandemic. So for that reason, I also stand in favor of the regulation. I think, Mr. Baku, you wanted to make a comment, and I think we're at a point now where we can then actually move to a vote, but I want to see if any other board member has any last comments, and then we will move to a vote. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate, the thing that I love about this board is that we can work through issues, even when we don't always agree. We do it in a professional way. We respect each other. We respect each other's opinions. These are great people, but sometimes we don't always agree. But in our board, the thing that is so nice is that you were a great person before you disagreed. You disagreed, you're still a great person. And once you have disagreed and we moved on, you are still a great person, and we value your contribution. So I think having a variety of views strengthens where we come out. So Mr. Baku, let me come to you, and then we're gonna go to a vote unless there's someone else that has comments.
Thank you, President Crawford.
I have a comment also after.
Yes, sir, we'll come to you, Mr. Barkley. Thank you.
Thank you, President Crawford. How we promise of collaboration and everything else. Us to speak on the point of local control. I know personally, coming from serving on the local board of education, last year student member, and having participated in legislative discussions, I do realize the importance of local control in many areas. However, there has to be a balance between local control and its relationship with the state agency and state governments. That relationship is so essential and important. And I know that even last year, a few months ago, many local boards and many local superintendents, in fact, felt a disconnect between the state and between their local government, their local school system, in terms of collaboration and immediate support. And I know that person coming from that sentiment, and seeing these boards of education, which are not acting on CDC advice, the CDC recommendations that they should strongly recommend masking students, and seeing this new Delta variant, Delta Plus, and all these traumatic public health disasters which are happening right now, that by an extension, by these board members, by not voting to require a mask, which is common sense to prevent infection within their communities are therefore being in themselves a public health hazard. They're public health hazard to education by not voting for these mask mandates within their local authority. And because they've been a public health hazard to their public health in their communities, then it comes from the state board to issue its authority and to work collaboratively with that school system. And we've tried through issuing guidance, but that guidance has not gotten through to many local boards. And when it comes time for local control to take a backseat for the state board to issue its authority and issue that guidance. And everyone on the state board is extremely qualified and knowledgeable. So hopefully that just explains it. My position, I completely support this mask mandate, and it's sad that it's even have to come all the way up here when these local boards have the first initial authority to make the common sense choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bartley?
Thank you, President Crawford. I want to address Senator Bates' comment. I have the same similar concerns that she has with regards to the local districts having some say-so in masking and when masks will be appropriate and when masks will no longer be required. But it's my understanding that the local school districts have not followed the edicts or the recommendations of the state board, and therefore it makes this action necessary. If all the school districts had a uniform policy with regards to masking and keeping our children safe, healthy, free of COVID-19, I would err on the side of caution and vote against this. But I think this regulation has been carefully crafted, and in the interest of our children, I will be voting in favor of it.
At this time, then, yes.
Just listening, I think there is a sense that some of us are voting, but we definitely, it's been said here by the superintendent and yourself, that we will receive a report every month so that we can judge what is happening in the state, because it doesn't have to be 180 days if it's not necessary.
Absolutely.
So with that, I will be voting yes.
Absolutely. So at this time, I would like to move us to a vote. All those in favor of going forward with the emergency regulation for masking, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye?
Aye. Aye.
So on the phone, Ms. Morrow, did you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bartley, I think you voted.
Aye.
Dr. Millie McCarthy.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. We have one nay. Abstentions. Mr. Schoen.
Motion carried.
Motion carried. We thank you very much. We thank members of the public and MSDE staff and the board for this thoughtful discussion and action. We now approve this so that this can now go to the next step. And we thank you very much for taking time out of your schedules to take part. By the way, we're back on Town Hall live streams, and again, the archive of the video will be on our website. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion from General Sumter, seconded by Dr. Getty. Seeing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Abstention. Mr. Schoen.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much.